Jussie Smollett took advantage of the pain and anger of racism to promote his career. This publicity stunt was a scar that Chicago didn't earn and certainly didn't deserve.
What a day. It is Friday, February 22nd, and whirlwind in the Windy City, where Justice for Jussie is taking on a whole new meeting. The disgraced star getting an earful from Chicago's top cop before heading back to the Empire set.
But could he soon be back in court facing new charges? We're live in Chicago. Plus, the father of the Alabama ISIS bride demanding his daughter be allowed back into the U.S.
The brand new legal fight he just picked with the Trump administration. And the thin blue line is holding strong.
How police took a stand to get that flag back in their state capital. Fox and Friends First on a Friday morning continues right now.
For a while now, but it was National Margarita Day because...
Why?
Because if you were told me on Wednesday, I think was the day when Carly and I were yellow and green and we looked like a giant, what viewer said, margarita, and they said, why didn't you wear that on Friday?
Are you kidding? You've had that thing marked on your calendar for months now. Good morning, everybody. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this National Margarita Day, also known as Friday morning. I am Todd Pyro in for Rob Schmidt.
A day to be celebrated. And I am Jillian Mealy. Thanks so much for starting your day with us. Boy, yesterday was a big day in Chicago after Jussie Smollett returns to the set of Empire hours after posting $100,000 bond. He's facing a felony charge for filing a false police report in an alleged hate crime hoax.
Matt Finn, live for us in Chicago, why prosecutors believe this was just one big publicity stunt. Matt, good morning.
Good morning, Todd. Jillian. Chicago's police superintendent is slamming actor Jussie Smollett, saying that this city embraced Smollett and then he turned around and slapped it in the face. And Chicago's top cop also alleges that Jussie Smollett carried out this entire hoax because he was upset about how much he was being paid. Prosecutors also say that Smollett sent a fake death threat letter to himself with a MAGA return address. And when that letter did not get enough attention, he concocted this elaborate hoax, paying the Osendaro brothers $3,500 to pretend to be President Trump supporters that beat him, called him racial and homophobic slurs, and put a noose around his neck. Empire actor Jussie Smollett took advantage of the pain and anger of racism to promote his career. Why would anyone, especially an African-American man, use the symbolism of a noose to make false accusations? How could someone look at the hatred and suffering associated with that symbol and see an opportunity to manipulate that symbol to further his own public profile? Jussie Smollett's legal team is swinging back. A portion of their statement reads, quote, "Today we witnessed an organized law enforcement spectacle that has no place in the American legal system. The presumption of innocence, a bedrock in the search for justice, was trampled upon at the expense of Mr. Smollett." Police say that most of Smollett's minor cuts and bruises were self-inflicted that night. The judge in bond court says the most disturbing allegation is the part about the noose because, quote, "it conjures up the greatest evil in this country." And Fox News has learned that Jussie Smollett did return to the Empire set shortly after he posted bond and was released from jail yesterday. Smollett is set to appear again on these charges in court next month, and the FBI is also investigating that fake death threat letter. And Smollett faces some serious federal charges if it's determined that he did send that letter to himself. Back to you guys.
It's amazing how this has unraveled. Matt Finn, you've been on top of it since the beginning. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Jussie Smollett already facing the possibility of prison time once this case ends.
But as Judge Andrew Napolitano points out, Smollett could be spending a lot longer than 3 years behind bars if the feds come calling.
The evidence that was laid out, however, by the assistant prosecutor in the hallway of the courthouse after his Smollett's hearing today is so precise, so clear, so damning, and shows such a careful planning and plotting that the government now has the opportunity to charge him with a variety of things. Every time he lied to the police, another charge of lying, all of this on top of filing a false police report. You're showing now the envelope that went through the mail. This triggers federal jurisdiction. Even if you're mailing that to yourself, triggers the federal authorities of posing a terroristic threat through the mails. Brady's facing 25 years in jail if you add up the potential state crimes and the potential federal crimes.
The brothers that Smollett allegedly hired to carry out the plot face no charges after testifying before a grand jury.
All right, let's take a look at Capitol Hill, a live look right now where today House Democrats will introduce a resolution to block President Trump's national emergency. Texas Congressman Joaquin Castro is leading the push and hoping to get a vote by next month. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi encouraging both sides of the aisle to back the resolution, but some Republicans say it's not likely.
I have a funny feeling that they won't get all of Democrats to vote for it. There'll be a lot who actually do want border security in this country, and you'll get virtually no Republicans.
Democratic leaders will introduce a similar resolution in the Senate.
Democrats making that push as thousands of migrants flood our southern border.
Right now, agents are ramping up security in El Paso, Texas, after a new Central American caravan unloads in Mexico.
Griff Jenkins joins us live at a migrant shelter in Mexico. Griff, what's the latest?
Good morning, Todd and Jillian. You know, here at the Casa del Migrante, one of two of the shelters in Ciudad Juarez, let me show you the barbed wire, the concertina wire on top of this shelter to keep the migrants safe. Well, that's exactly what the Border Patrol in El Paso is doing. They were making preparations at the points of entry here in El Paso and points in between, because it's what we've seen in California. It's what we saw when we were over in Piedras Negras, when the caravans were gathering there, because, as the officials say in El Paso, they can't wait to be prepared should there be an influx of migrants, and we certainly have that, thousands here in Ciudad Juarez. In fact, one of the migrants that we followed all the way from Honduras back on January 15th, Jose, is come here. He has a pink wristband on his arm, and it says the number 6,387. That is a long line to wait your turn to get asylum. We don't know exactly where they are in that counting. However, it is the wanting to get as soon as you can across that border that is leading this flood of migrants to push the boundaries of what U.S. officials can deal with. They're being overwhelmed. Obviously, the El Paso sector is of 43,000 illegal entries already this fiscal year, 2019. I spoke yesterday with the mayor here in Ciudad Juarez, Armando Cavada, and he says that the people of Juarez are very upset that this flood of migrants have come here. The mayor told me that in Piedras Negras, that last place where I reported to you a few weeks ago, he said that they put people on buses from that shelter when they closed it and sent them here. So it is an overwhelming problem for all of the different border cities along the southwest border. Over in Arizona, a troubling development. The CBP officials there telling us that another MS-13 gang member has been apprehended. The Tucson sector folks got him. His name is Alonzo Alon, and he has more than 10 prior previous entries for a dangerous MS-13 gang member. But here in Mexico, nationwide, they are talking about one thing, and that is the unbelievable rise in violence. According to officials in Mexico, the month of January was the deadliest January on record. 2,452 homicides intentionally. That is a first, and people are worried about it. The federal government has deployed troops and federal police to a lot of different cities to try and quell that problem. Here in Ciudad Juarez, by the way, they're seeing a 6-year high in terms of the homicide rate. So it is all hands on deck here as we are on this side of the border across from El Paso. Todd, Jillian.
All right, thank you very much, Griff. Keep us posted. I know we will. The father of the Alabama ISIS bride is suing the Trump administration to bring her home. Hoda Muthana's family wants to affirm she is an American citizen after Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said she was not. Jim Hansen, president of the Security Studies Group, joined us earlier, sounding off on her claims.
She has been determined to not be a U.S. citizen, not by the Trump administration, but by the Obama administration. The Trump administration is simply affirming that and saying, let her in.
Muthana was born in New Jersey, but the government claims her father was a diplomat at the time, which would bar her from American citizenship. She's begging to come back to the U.S. with her son after joining ISIS in Syria in 2014. A Coast Guard lieutenant accused of plotting a mass domestic terror attack is staying behind bars. A judge ruling Christopher Hassan will be held without bail for 2 weeks while the feds investigate his activities. Prosecutors say Hassan is a significant threat to the community after investigators found a hit list of possible targets, including Democratic leaders and journalists. The self-proclaimed white nationalist stockpiling 15 firearms with more than 1,000 rounds of ammo in his basement in Maryland.
A Florida mayor behind bars charged with shooting at deputies trying to serve a warrant. Investigators say Dale Mossad opened fire after a SWAT team told him to drop his gun. The Port Richey mayor now facing attempted murder charges.
He's lucky he's not dead. He's the one who made the decision to shoot us. He's the one who's going to be in jail right now.
SWAT teams sent to Mossad's home to serve the warrant because he has a history of drug use and violence. Mossad under investigation for allegedly practicing medicine without a license. It's an interesting mugshot. He looks surprised. North Carolina will hold a new election over concerns of fraud in a hotly contested House race. Republican candidate Mark Harris won his election in November by less than 1%, but a political operative allegedly manipulated mail-in ballots in Harris's favor. The State Board of Elections unanimously voting to hold a new election after Harris called for a revote himself. It's unclear when the election will be or whether Harris will run again.
It is 11 minutes after the hour. Chicago's top cop slamming the media's coverage of the Jussie Smollett case.
I only hope that the truth about what happened receives the same amount of attention that the hoax did.
Why our next guest says if that were true, the whole orchestrated attack would have never happened in the first place.
And move over, Colonel Sanders.
Oh.
Yes, that's right. There's a new man in charge of keeping KFC's secret recipe a secret. We're going to introduce him to you, or you can just look at your screen right now. Fox and Friends returns after this. Fox and Friends first, in fact.
Jussie Smollett from the hit show Empire was attacked and beaten. There are many indications of a hate crime here.
Smollett is also black and gay, which may have been the motivation for an alleged attack.
They were yelling MAGA country as they beat him.
This is MAGA country. They are looking for two suspects who were apparently wearing Make America Great Again hats.
As you just saw in that montage, the left quickly embraced the claims made by Jussie Smollett, taking to social media, appearing on TV, demanding justice.
But will the same celebrities and media outlets now come to the defense of the president's supporters? I think the obvious answer is probably not, but let's get an opinion here. Here to weigh in is Republican strategist Kimberly Klacik. Thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate it. I mean, look, you would think that some people would have learned their lesson after the Covington Catholic, situation that went on. And now we have another situation where, Trump supporters are, put out there to blame, so to speak. What do you make of it? People aren't learning.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I feel terrible for the police chief and investigators that spent countless of hours chasing a ghost. And I pray that there weren't any victims due to lack of resources because of this investigation. Now, the police chief, I know he said something about hopefully the truth makes as much traction as the lies that Smollett told, but I don't see how that's possible. If it was possible, Smollett would have boosted his career on actual hate crimes that exist. This is what happens when you have a high demand for racism, but not a ton of racists actually out there. Victimhood is very lucrative in America, and I think Jussie Smollett knows that, and so does the left know that. And so that's what they've been depending on and pushing from the very beginning, and that's why he thought he could get away with this.
Yeah, Kimberly, take a look at these numbers. Obviously, we showed in that montage, that was just a snippet of the wall-to-wall seeming coverage of the Jussie Smollett case when it fit the mainstream media narrative, but when something happened over the course of the last 48 hours and that narrative started to become questioned, here's what the numbers look like. CNN, they devoted 107 minutes. That seems like an okay amount in the scope of your entire primetime. But take a look. MSNBC, when news of Jussie Smollett's arrest, posting bail, all that came out, they provided no coverage whatsoever. What do you make of that, Kimberly?
This is just what they roll on every single time. Like Jillian said with the Covington schoolboys. That lie turned out to be a lie. It was obvious. And then they just ran with the fact that Jussie Smollett's unbelievable story came out just a week later. This is what the left does. This is what Democrat politicians do. I mean, I think, honestly, Jussie Smollett, what he did is a disservice to gay and the black communities, but also this constant conversation about racism and gay pride. If we spent just as much time on being pro-business or pro-America and support those policies, President Trump would have never been able to run on Make America Great Again. But he could, because everyone's selling victimhood. So he ran on the fact that he knows people feel sometimes they are the underdog. So this is, to me, I'm not surprised. I'm just shocked, really, that he made and orchestrated this whole entire attack, and it's really sad.
Do you think these attacks will continue against the president and his base?
Oh, definitely. I think I urge, actually, Trump supporters to just be very aware and very alert. I think their agenda moving to 2020 elections is to depict Trump and his supporters as racist because they have no other platform. I mean, just think about how many people covered the Black History Month event at the White House yesterday. Not a ton of networks, you know? I think right now, if you are a straight white male in America that shows any signs of masculinity, you are a target.
There you go.
Kimberly Klacik, thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
It is 19 minutes after the hour. Shocking video of a gunman opening fire on a deputy. This morning, a new twist in the case. Turns out the triggerman was here illegally.
And Donald Trump Jr. calling out Instagram for blocking users from liking his posts. So, is it conservative censorship or protection from spam? I've asked the producers for pronunciation of this young lady's name. I still haven't gotten it. I'm going to go with Carly Shimkus. She's here live with the outrage growing on social media.
Good Friday morning, welcome back. Protection from spam or conservative censorship. Instagram playing defense after Donald Trump Jr. calls them out for blocking users from liking his posts.
Carly Shimkus, Fox News Headlines 24/7, Sirius XM 115 here with the online reaction. It kind of feel like it was Facebook, then it was Twitter, now Instagram getting in the game.
Yeah, that's right.
They don't want to be in it.
So liking posts is one issue, but he's also heard from people who say that their accounts automatically unfollowed him.
That's weird.
And they didn't know until they checked. So he posted a bunch of screen grabs that show that their actions, their interaction with Donald Trump Jr. has been blocked by Instagram. And check out some of this reaction. Buck says, we need to start a conservative social media outlet. Another Instagram user says, I get conservative blocked all the time on Twitter and Insta for no reason other than being a conservative. And Pamela says, this is pretty sad. I will refollow you, but who's to say they won't do it again? Instagram responded to this in a statement. Listen to this. They say, the action blocked message is shown to people when we detect they may be taking part in spammy behavior. For example, liking multiple posts. This is a measure we have in place to prevent spam on Instagram and isn't specific to any one account. So that's the explanation for the action blocked message. Although I think it's pretty common to like multiple pictures on people's pages.
You're bored, you're scrolling through, you're like.
Yeah. So I wasn't aware of the spammy behavior thing, but
that is a weird response. Hey, Shimkus, if I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. Don't mess with James Woods.
Yeah, okay, so he is a part of the story.
Right.
First, let's start with Alyssa Milano.
Sure.
So it is no secret that the Democratic Party is moving to the left. Bernie Sanders raised, $6 million the first 24 hours he announced his presidential campaign. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the new face of the party. Well, listen to what Alyssa Milano says. She says, this is the part of the election cycle when the GOP will paint the Dems as socialists to deter you from voting in 2020 for the party that actually fights for the people. They'll drill the word socialist into our daily vernacular. Don't be fooled. This is strategy, not sincerity. James Woods responded saying, you are correct in your assessment. Actually, it is a classic tactic from the playbook used by your fellow liberals, Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky, a well-known wait for it socialist. Carlton says the reason for the confusion on the left about socialism is they really don't understand the definition of socialism. Jeff says, sorry, but when they call themselves democratic socialists, we assume they mean democratic socialists. So, you can blame the Democratic Party or the Republican Party for a lot. I just don't think calling the socialists a socialist is one of those things.
Well, and a lot of them are touting socialist policies. So
Thank you. The nail on that, Jillian.
Minor details. Yeah. So let's talk about this RoboCop that's protecting a recipe.
I saw that you teased it going into a commercial. This is the big story of the day. So KFC just announced their newest spokesperson called Colonel RoboCop. You see him right there. A Colonel Sanders RoboCop hybrid who was tasked with helping protect their secret recipe. Let the food wars begin. This is Burger King's tweet announcing their brand new chicken sandwich, and they say that a king outweighs a colonel. I think we have a video of the King Colonel hybrid. There it is, right there. And then Rob says the RoboCop reboot everyone is waiting for. And Marco tweets, shouldn't it be Robo-Colonel?
Interesting.
We need to get the Robo-Colonel on the show.
That's right. Oh, he's right behind you. No, I'm just joking.
I was like, what? Thanks, Carly.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Time now. Which camera? This one. 2020 Democrats caught in a race of who can go further to the left, but how far is too far. Charlie Kirk says there are 5 ways Democrats are fighting to, I love this, out-crazy each other. He's live to break them down.
And the birthday wish going viral. How this little boy is taking action to keep police safe for his 12th birthday. You don't want to miss it.
All the 2020 presidential candidates, or soon-to-be candidates, are sort of formulating their opinions right now, crafting what their positions are going to be. She recently said that she does not believe in open borders. Watch this.
No, I believe that we need border security, but we need smart border security. We can't have open borders. We need to have border security. All nations do.
All right, so if you remember, Beto O'Rourke recently said that he would tear down the existing wall in El Paso, so she differs from him there. Let's check out some reaction. Somebody on Facebook, M, says her own state is tearing down the wall. They had her governor wants open borders. Jim says she's trying to play both sides of the fence. And Roger says can't have it both ways. Show your support by voting yes for a border wall in the Senate when it comes up again. I don't think that's going to happen, but I do believe she realizes that open borders nationally isn't a winning platform.
I was going to say, trying to gauge which one is the winning platform.
That's right.
So someone that is winning, though, this veteran who had a hat returned from Spirit Airlines.
That's right. So a Vietnam veteran recently posted on Facebook that he lost his beloved military hat on a Spirit Airlines flight. He asked people on Facebook to share his message, spread the word, hoping to get it back. Boy, did they deliver. His message was shared 320,000 times. It finally got to the flight attendant who had the hat. Saw the post, returned the hat back to that veteran who wrote on Facebook, I want to thank everyone across this great nation for responding to the call. The heartwarming responses came from every state. America sure does care about her veterans. I cannot express how thankful I am to all of you, and also Spirit Airlines, from the corporate level on down. So a happy ending
a
to
positive
that story.
use of social media.
Yeah, every now and then it happens, Heather. Every now and then.
That's a great way to end it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Carly.
Thanks
Have a great
so much.
weekend.
Happy weekend.
Yeah. Well, the time now is about 5:30 the top of the hour, and the father of that Alabama ISIS bride now suing the Trump administration to let her come home. Does the family have a case? Our next guest breaks down the legal loopholes that could be key. And talk about a close call, a windshield blown to pieces by a wooden beam. Yeah, how the driver managed to walk away from this one unharmed. Welcome back. A look at our top stories for you this morning. Actor Jussie Smollett returns to the set of Empire just hours after posting a $100,000 bond. Smollett is facing felony charges for filing a false police report after staging his own crime, but could face new charges for allegedly sending a hate letter to himself. And House Democrats are introducing a resolution today to block President Trump's national emergency. Texas Congressman Joaquin Castro is leading that push and hoping to get a vote by next month. Democratic leaders will introduce a similar resolution in the Senate. And the father of the Alabama ISIS bride is suing the Trump administration to bring her home. Muthana's family wants to affirm that she is an American citizen after Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said she was not. Muthana was born in New Jersey, but the government, I should say, claims her father was a diplomat at the time, which would bar her from American citizenship. So have they found a legal loophole to secure her American citizenship and allow her back into the country? Jim Hansen, who conducted counterterrorism operations, joins us now to explain. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you.
So let's bring up, first of all, as we begin our conversation, what her lawyer had to say. And he says that Ms. Muthana has publicly acknowledged her actions and accepted full responsibility for those actions. In Ms. Muthana's words, she recognizes that she has ruined her own life, but she does not want to ruin the life of her young child. So what do you say?
I say that is a wonderful sentiment, and no one should hold an innocent child responsible for the crimes of their parents. However, she has been determined to not be a U.S. citizen, not by the Trump administration, but by the Obama administration, which revoked her passport in 2016 when they found that her father was a diplomat at the time of her birth. Therefore, she has no U.S. citizenship. The Trump administration is simply affirming that and saying, given her actions, providing aid and comfort to enemies of the United States during hostilities, makes her ineligible to come back, and we're not going to let her in.
Yeah, and let's take a look at that. The Immigration and Nationality Act that you were just speaking on, Title 8, it does say a person born in the United States to a foreign diplomatic officer accredited to the United States as a matter of international law is not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. That person is not a United States citizen. But there's a discrepancy as to the month that she was born.
And that seems kind of convenient that all of a sudden, once she's already left and gone to join this death cult, that they file paperwork saying, oh no, I wasn't a diplomat a month before her birth. We'll find out. This is going to court. It will be adjudicated. And I hope they find she was never a U.S. citizen. But if they do find that she was, then I think that the United States should file both treason and material aid and comfort charges against her. And I mean, I could actually see her becoming potentially one of the first female inhabitants at Gitmo. That might be a good way to deter others from deciding to do things like she did.
Yeah, you know, we see these pictures of her smiling. We've seen the pictures of she and her child. She left the United States in 2014. She was married to not one, but 3 ISIS fighters. The child was born to an ISIS fighter while she was over there. And before and right after she left, she posted on all these different social media sites, Twitter included, these threats and these statements where she challenged people to run over people in trucks. She actually challenged people to assassinate President Obama.
And in 2014, if you found enough information to decide you wanted to join ISIS, you also were well aware that they were chopping people's heads off and burning them alive in cages. She knew where she was going, and it's worth noting that President Obama gave Anwar al-Awlaki a Hellfire missile for not much more than the threats she made on social media. So she has committed terroristic acts, and whatever her status becomes, she either needs to go to jail for as long as we can put her in, or better yet, never sets foot in the United States again.
But she says she just thinks she needs therapy, that would help.
Yeah, I'm sure she can have therapy in prison if that's where she ends up, and she certainly needs it, but that's not the correct punishment for someone who joined a homicidal, genocidal organization like ISIS willingly.
All right, thank you so much. We appreciate it, and people are fired up about this, so hopefully she will not return. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, 200 American troops will stay in Syria after President Trump withdraws forces from the war-torn country. The White House says the troops will be part of a small peacekeeping force and will remain in Syria for a, quote, period of time. Last month, President Trump announced his decision to pull 2,000 troops from Syria after declaring victory over ISIS. Well, like father, like sons, the U.S. is charging El Chapo's two sons with drug trafficking. Joaquin and Ovidio Guzman Lopez are fugitives. They're accused of helping funnel cocaine, meth, and marijuana into the United States for the past decade. They are believed to be in Mexico. Their notorious drug lord father, of course, was recently convicted on similar charges, and he faces life in prison. Well, drug users could soon have safe places to get high in Maryland. It's the first of its kind bill to create safe opioid injection sites, and it's on the table. The pilot program would reportedly let opioid users inject with clean needles near trained staffers. Well, a state committee passed the same bill last year, but later rejected it. So what do you think about that? How about sugary drinks? Let's switch to this. Sugary drinks hitting a sour note in California. Lawmakers are proposing a new soda tax meant to combat obesity, which is considered a, quote, public health crisis in that state. The law would ban stores and restaurants from selling sugary drinks bigger than 16 ounces. It's unclear how much the tax would cost. Connecticut is considering a similar law. Well, the time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour, and Bernie Sanders is now part of the crowded field of 2020 presidential candidates on the left. What the party wants the independent senator to do to prove he is a Democrat. And damage control. Nike has some splaining to do after Zion Williamson's shoe blowout less than a minute into the Duke game. How much the shoe... Welcome back. Bernie Sanders expected to sign a pledge next week that he is running as a Democrat in 2020. The DNC introducing the candidate affirmation form in August. Now, this after complaints of the 2016 election when Sanders fought Hillary Clinton for the nomination, of course, despite being an independent. All Democratic candidates will be asked to sign the new agreement. Well, she once called the alleged attack against actor Jussie Smollett an attempted modern-day lynching. And now Democratic Senator Kamala Harris is reversing course. The Empire actor is facing felony charges after prosecutors say he staged a hate crime attack in Chicago as a publicity stunt. The Smollett's lawyers deny those claims. Following his arrest, Harris, a 2020 hopeful as well, spoke out on Twitter saying this: "I'm sad, frustrated, and disappointed when anyone makes false claims to police. It not only diverts resources away from serious investigations, but it makes it more difficult for other victims of crime to come forward." Well, conservative leaders are demanding an investigation into social media censorship. Tracy Krosko from our sister network, Fox Business, here to explain. It seems like this is never ending.
Yes, good morning, Heather. Well, the heads of a number of conservative organizations sent a letter to Attorney General William Barr asking for an investigation into several of these online organizations, social media companies like Facebook, YouTube, Google, Twitter, all of that because of the growing threat of online censorship. The letter calls for action. You can see a quote here: "During such a turbulent time in our nation's political system, it is crucial that you investigate how these social media search media powerhouses wield their power to sway elections." The letter also claims that these organizations, quote, have a significant liberal agenda hardwired into their platforms. We've heard in the past all of these organizations like Google, Facebook, they said that they have no political leanings, but we have not yet heard any reaction from them, according to this letter.
Well, let's talk about the reaction to this because it was swift.
Yes.
This Duke star, Zion Williamson, the shoe mishap where it basically exploded on the court.
Yes, that was insane to see. But yesterday we saw shares of Nike, the maker of that sneaker, falling more than 1%. Analysts attributed that stock move to Zion Williamson and what happened to him, the Duke basketball star and hottest NBA prospect. We know Nike has a reputation of sneakers and gear for athletes, but this is really hurting its image right now. Nike in damage control, trying to come back from that. Shares in the after hour down as well, so we'll be watching Nike stock very closely today.
I don't know how that happened.
I don't either, my goodness.
But then you had Kaepernick's Nike jersey selling out, so maybe that counters it a little bit. Yes. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Heather.
Well, the time now is about 15 minutes before the top of the hour, and a brand new fight in Florida against sanctuary cities. The state senator behind the new bill joins us live with why he says it's the only way to keep the public safe. And this hockey player giving new meaning. Well, happening today in the House, Democrats plan to block President Trump's national emergency declaration 1 day after a group of Democrats led their own fact-finding mission to the border. Now, they're still refusing to acknowledge the crisis, so doesn't that mean that they're not really interested in real facts? Here now to weigh in is Florida State Senator Joe Gruters, who just proposed a bill to ban sanctuary cities in his state, which we will talk about in just a moment. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Heather.
So what is your take on what's going on at the southern border there, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and what Democrats are doing in terms of trying to block the president's emergency order?
Well, once again, you have the Democrats in Washington, D.C. playing games, and it's unfortunate, and what the president's doing is the right thing. You could be no surprise because this is what he said he was going to do when he was campaigning. And he's doing the right thing for the American people because we have a humanitarian crisis, we have a national security crisis, and building this wall and securing the border is the right thing.
And you think that he made the right choice in terms of declaring a national emergency in order to get it done?
No question that he's doing the right thing. You know, he expected Congress to negotiate a little bit better. They've been dragging their feet the last couple of years. Even when the government shut down, they basically said that they were going to negotiate a little bit more, and he did the best job he could. He had some victories with it, but at the end of the day, he's doing the right thing for the American people because, listen, we have MS-13 gang members coming in. We have 70,000 people died of drug overdoses in the United States last year. We have a free flow of drugs coming through the process. We have human traffickers coming over, and we have to do everything we can to make sure that we protect the American people. And President Trump is doing exactly what he said he was going to do, and he's doing the right thing to protect the people of the United States. It's all about public safety and common sense.
And as a result of all of that, including, the violent gangs like MS-13 that you remember, the drug traffickers, and then the drug overdoses that have happened as a result, that's one of the reasons that Florida is taking this step toward banning sanctuary cities, requiring law enforcement to cooperate with federal authorities, which would seem like a given.
Well, it goes back to common sense. My bill, what it does is it does two things. It makes sure that criminal illegal aliens are removed from the streets, and number two, it also prevents local elected officials from passing laws that prohibit cooperation with federal immigration authorities and laws.
And we actually have that up on the screen now. As cities as well, they could face fines of up to $5,000 per day.
Yeah, listen, this is another common sense bill. President Trump is well liked here in Florida. I think voters here in Florida appreciate. They're against illegal immigration. I think one of the reasons why President Trump did so well in 2016, and I think as the Florida GOP chairman, I will tell you that the president has full support for everything he's doing. And we have a great governor in Ron DeSantis and great leadership in the legislature. And I fully expect this bill to go the distance this year.
You read my mind. That's what I was going to ask you, if you think that you'll get pushback or if you think that it will pass successfully.
Over the past couple of years, I think 6 years in a row, this bill has been brought up. The last 3 years it's passed the House. This is the first year in the state Senate that has moved past the first committee. And I think, like I said, we have a governor in Ron DeSantis that has basically said that this is a priority. We have Speaker Jose Oliva. We have President Bill Galvano. They're all committed to doing the right thing. This is common sense, and it's about public safety and cooperation. We have a local sheriff, a guy named Tom Knight, who's been using the basic operating agreement and been cooperating. And this is not about any country. This law is not about immigration policies.
Yeah.
This is about making sure that we do the right thing. Tom Knight, our local sheriff,
it is about a country.
500 deportations, 25 states.
Yeah, it's about keeping people in this country safe and alive. State Senator Joe Gruters, thank you so much for joining us. Keep us updated on what happens.
Thank you so much, Heather.
Well, the time now is about 6 minutes until the top of the hour. A plot to torch a statue of General Robert E. Lee goes up in smoke when the vandals picked the wrong guy.
You have a special visitor today.
Welcome back. Take a look at these vandals. They apparently need a history lesson. This statue of this World War II hero set on fire because of his last name. North Carolina police believe the criminals confused Major General William C. Lee for Confederate General Robert E. Lee. Several $100s worth of damage was done. A $1,000 reward offered for information leading to an arrest. Well, now it's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Up first, the good. A little boy gets called out of class, but it's for the best surprise ever.
You have a special visitor today.
Oh, I love it. Sergeant Jonathan Perez Olivieri hugging his son Liam for the first time in 9 months. He's now back home in Texas after a deployment to Germany. Aw. And now the bad, this wooden beam crashing through a windshield, missing a driver by inches. You can see it sticking out of the glass there. This happened in New York City. The beam likely falling from a subway platform. It fell on the passenger side.